Hi everyone, so here's the story of how we adopted and lost this beautiful boy. I was hoping it would be more of a cheery story, but unfortunately I've had to refilm this video with a sad ending. So basically I'll start at the beginning. This little guy came to live with us on Thursday the 19th. He belonged to my friend's boyfriend's family and he was being cared for really badly, to be honest. She didn't know too much about tortoises, but she knew that something wasn't right, so basically we've been texting back and forth over the last couple of months, and I was giving her little tips on the care of his species and the diet, and she'd been relaying this information to the tortoise owner, if that makes any sense. So basically she'd been checking up on him, and the final straw came when she asked about how Tommy was doing, and his owner had said that he hadn't eaten in 4 or 5 weeks and he wasn't moving, to the point where they were poking him to see if he was alive, which I'm sure you will know from watching Sheldon. Tortoises should be really active and he just really wasn't right. So she finally persuaded the owner to give him up because he wasn't even trying to improve his care, to be honest, and she brought him over to my house. He had seen a vet at this point on my recommendation, and the vet had given him some Reptile Boost to be bathing him in, which he wasn't doing. So basically he just really wasn't being cared for, and even the instructions of the vet weren't being followed. So by the time he came to us, which was a month or so after he'd seen the vet, he was in really poor condition. I'm sure you'll be able to see from the video. He was very dehydrated, weak, really underweight, and he had a really severe case of metabolic bone disease. He was really weak, to the point where he couldn't stand up, and his shell was really deformed and very soft. This isn't a normal shape for a horsefield, and you can't see from the video, but he was really squishy. So basically he had been living in a drawer on a dresser. He'd been eating lettuce and he'd had no access to UV light. He did have a heat lamp, but it was just a basking lamp, there was no UV. So he hadn't eaten in 4 to 5 weeks, and he didn't have any water. Not that he could reach his water bowl if there was any water in it, because his legs are so weak that he couldn't hold himself off the ground. So to be honest, it was a really shocking look at how neglect and improper care can cause tortoises such a huge amount of problems. It was quite shocking to see, to be honest. So I immediately put him under the correct lighting and got his temperatures right. I gave him a soak in the Reptile Boost and began a course of hydrotherapy to strengthen up his legs. Of course I didn't make him swim or anything like that, I was just trying to encourage him to use his legs and to build up some muscle. So over the next couple of days he began moving slightly. We were soaking him 4 times a day and he did start to look a better colour. He even peed one of the days, which was amazing. So he was still refusing food, and I felt that he was too weak to try and syringe feed him. I was so afraid of hurting him. Even picking him up gently left kind of small indentations on his shell, so that kind of shows how weak his shell was. So basically I rang around all of my vets and eventually found a reptile specialist who had dealt with cases of metabolic bone disease before, and she was confident in treating him. So me and my friend drove 40 minutes to have him looked at. She confirmed that it was a severe case of metabolic bone disease, and she also told me that he had a couple of small hemorrhages under his shell. The vet had seen a lot of cases of metabolic bone disease before and was confident in giving some aggressive treatment a go, although she did at this point warn me that there was a big possibility he wouldn't make it. She was a bit shocked at the state he was in, to be honest, and how soft his shell was, so she only gave him a 50% chance of survival. But because I'd seen him perk up over the last few days, I was still really quite hopeful at this point. So we got to the vets and I requested blood tests before we began any treatment, just to check there was nothing else going on below the surface. because he'd been dehydrated for so long. Kidney failure was a real possibility, and just his general care, there were so many things that could be going on below the surface. If they all cleared all right, then we would follow that by an x-ray, and eventually we would have a feeding tube inserted. He'd also need vitamin injections. He was just in such appalling condition. So basically we dropped him at the vet's, and we were going to leave him there for 3 or 4 days until he'd had his blood tests and the results were back. He'd had his x-ray and his feeding tube inserted, and then he'd be able to come home. So at this point I was just so glad that he had come to us, and I thought we were going to be able to save his life. So I was expecting a phone call last weekend to explain the results of his bloods and whether or not we could continue treating him, and I was expecting at that point to have to make the decision if there was something wrong, but basically it didn't get to that point. On Wednesday I had an unexpected phone call from the vet. Basically the vet had gone ahead with the blood tests on Tommy, and when she was examining him, his shell was so weak that one of his scoots actually lifted off from his shell and he started bleeding really heavily. So she had to make a really difficult decision, which must have been a lot of pressure on her because obviously she didn't have my consent. So she must have been really worried and she must have been feeling really guilty. But she had to make the decision to put him to sleep. He'd lost a lot of blood, and she believed that it was just too late for him and that he was too far gone. So of course we're heartbroken that we couldn't save him. I really wanted to give him a long and happy life, and I was really expecting us to be able to get him better. I was really positive, despite, his less than 50% chance of survival. So the worst thing about this is that metabolic bone disease is completely preventable just by looking into and meeting the basic needs of tortoises. He had suffered for such a long time, and he was only 8 years old. I mean, this species can live 60, 80 years, so to say that he missed out would be a ridiculous understatement. So this is a horrendous story for me to tell, and my only hope is that this story makes another tortoise's life better. Tortoises do have such complex needs, and they really do need a huge amount of research. So please, if you're looking into getting a tortoise, please make sure that you've got everything in place, or that if you own one now, please make sure that you're caring for them properly. Different species have different requirements, but all tortoises need both heat and UV light. They also need adequate levels of calcium and vitamin D in their diet. It was too late for Tommy, but I really hope that out of his tragic death I can raise a little bit of awareness so that one more tortoise somewhere can live a better life. If you see a neglected animal, please tell someone. You could save their life. I can't thank my friend enough for bringing him to me, because she gave him a chance, and at least now he's not suffering. If he was still there, then I'm sure he would still be just slowly getting worse and worse, not receiving the vet treatment he needed and suffering. So I can't thank my friend enough for at least giving him a chance. So basically this is a video to say rest in peace, Tommy. I wish I could have had the chance to give you the life that you deserved. I tried my hardest, and although we only had you for around a week, you'd still become a part of the family, and I really did love you. I will be making a video explaining metabolic bone disease soon, because I think that it's a really important topic. And yeah, that's basically the story of Tommy, him coming to live with us and him leaving us far too soon. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you as well to everyone who's been so supportive on Facebook. I'm sorry I didn't keep YouTube updated, but yeah, I'd uploaded the video explaining how he came to live with us, and I was just about to make it public when I got a phone call from the vet, which kind of changed everything. So I'm sorry this hasn't been kept updated, but I didn't want to upload a video that was welcoming him into our family just as he was leaving. So yeah, but I did keep my Facebook updated, and I'm so grateful for everyone who was really kind. One lady even sent us a couple of bits. She has tortoises of her own. I think she's got quite a few rescues, and some of them have issues with eating when they come out of hibernation. So she sent me a sample of some of the bits that she uses to try and encourage them to start eating again, which was so kind, and I really can't thank her enough. And for everyone who's just had their fingers crossed for him and has been wishing us well. Unfortunately, on this occasion, it didn't work out, but I will always be so appreciative of all the support from you guys. So thank you so much, and thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye.